Tanasa.
So I did get a message from you, but I just checked it on Friday. Maybe left me a voicemail. I'm sure maybe.
Perhaps.
Apologize, I didn't get back to you. I just got it this morning or yesterday when I came to the office to check this. Here, grab this. This is a better way to get a hold of me myself. So feel free to call me. Because response.
Yes, I did, and I put it part of that article. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, so give me a call and that's the best way to get a hold of me. Sometimes it takes a few days for I get back and check messages. Okay? 2-minute warning. Oh, thank you. Yeah. I think I got it. Thanks. Yes.
Recording in progress.
Ready, Mr. Duncan?
Ready, sir.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I want to welcome all of you to the Los Angeles County Board of County Commissioners regular meeting. Today is Tuesday, March 5th, 2024, and it is 9 a.m. I'm calling this meeting to order. Please rise for an invocation by Commissioner Tony Haas, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Commissioner Luis Lopez.
Dear Lord, thank you for bringing us to the start of a new month. Bless our family and friends and keep them safely in your care. We ask that your healing hand be upon us and those that are ill. And we thank you in advance for all the blessings you will bestow this month. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioners. Roll call, Mr. Duncan.
Commissioner Hess.
Here.
Commissioner Luis Lopez.
Here.
Commissioner Felix.
Here. Approval of the agenda. Do you have any changes to the agenda, Mr. Duncan?
No changes, Commissioner.
Thank you, sir. I'll entertain a motion.
Move for approval of the agenda.
Second motion.
Commissioner Luis Lopez.
Yes.
Commissioner Hess.
Yes.
Commissioner Felix Lopez.
Yes, thank you. We're going to go to section 2, consideration of minutes. Special meeting minutes, February 13, 2024. Commissioners, you have those minutes. Do we have any discussions, any corrections? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the special meeting minutes of February 13, 2024.
Second motion.
Commissioner Hess.
Yes.
Commissioner Luis Lopez.
Yes.
Commissioner Felix Lopez.
Yes, reading of correspondence, Commissioner Committee reports. Commissioner Tony Haas, would you like to go first?
Sir. On the 22nd and 23rd, I attended the CCI legislative update. The commissioners from 63 of the 64 counties came together to discuss and take a position on 46 bills. We also discussed 20 separate issues that we have already weighed in on. There are 100 more bills introduced this year compared to this time last year. Topics included tax and finance, land use, and natural resources. agriculture, justice, and justice and public safety. One of the bills I'd like to highlight that CCI took the opposition to was House Bill 241165, County Authority to Prohibit Firearms Discharge. This bill would, there's currently a bill that is active, and but it has exemptions for private property. This new bill would exclude private property. The reason for the opposition is we have a lot of large landowners in the counties, and they have hunting rights on in those counties, and that was our reason for the opposition. On the 28th and 29th, I attended the EIF Tier 2 hearings. I sit on the board there. We reviewed 24 housing requests for a total of $9.4 million, and there was $6.9 million available for that housing. There were 42 Tier 2 requests totaling $22.3 million, and there was $24 million available. Of the 64 requests, 2 withdrew their requests, 2 were denied, and 62 projects received funding. Projects identified were water and sewer infrastructure, road and bridge maintenance, public facility infrastructure, and affordable housing projects. That's what I'm reporting, sir.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Luis Lopez.
Thank you, Chairman. On the 21st of February, there was a work session with the city of Trinidad and Trinidad Renewables Authority for discussion regarding a development that I've been speaking to you about. I wasn't able to attend that morning, but the conversation is continuing this evening with City Hall and City Council ongoing with that development. This evening with the Urban Renewals Authority as well as City Council during the work session this evening for that same development at this time. While we have Urban Renewal on my mind right now, the development is moving forward with the old Hughes Lumber Building, and the development is coming right along. The designs have been is presented, and it's going to be back to the old original name before the Hughes Lumber. I can't remember the name of it right now off the top of my head. I think Carl.
Either O.L. Davis or the Hughes Lumber Company.
Oh, O.L. Davis. So thank you for submitting those designs and assisting Commissioner Bagley in getting the information to everyone. We appreciate it. So it's going to be really great for the community to see that come to fruition soon, and look forward to the development of that downtown area. On the 23rd, the Front Range Passenger Rail did convene, and we finally had the election of officers. I am proud to say that I am now on the executive committee as the treasurer of Front Range Rail. Thank you. Our first numbers are coming through from our consultants regarding the dollar amounts we're going to be initiated, and we're looking over $3.2 billion at this point for the first phases, as well as we are still working with the RTE regarding some funding that they have from their initial ballot measure many years ago to see if that is an option to be utilized by Front Range Rail to assist in pertaining to the train that never was developed to Boulder. And if that can come to fruition, I think we'll be able to help and assist the community as well, getting the Front Range Rail into the Boulder and back up to the Long Haul community, which was designed 20-some years ago and hasn't been put to fruition as of yet. There is a concern by some constituents and some board members that it'll deny funding for the southern portion of the rail, which that is not true. So that will just be an additional $100 million to assist for that portion and that portion only. It will not take away any funding for the southern routes of the Front Range Passenger Rail moving forward. This Thursday, we also have a meeting with the governor and a train ride from Union Station to Longmont, Fort Collins area, and there will be a press release. The governor will be having a media release that day regarding other issues moving forward with the rail, and and some consultants at that time. I don't know if I'll be able to make it to this one. It's gonna be a 7-hour train ride, and, 12 o'clock till 7 p.m., and I don't know if I'll be able to attend due to other commitments. The rail is moving forward with a possible ballot initiative at this point in time. Once our final figures are put together, we need to have something put together, hopefully within the next month. If a ballot measure is to be proposed for tax upon up and down the districts, the Secretary of State's office has been working with Front Range Rail. The main issue is for taxation in the districts. So it'll basically go into the clerk and recorder's office of every county and Secretary of State's for taxing of the district. So it'll break down into precincts is how this will be determined. 5-mile radius on either side of I-25 is what I'm understanding how this taxation measure will be leveraged and not to exceed that outside area of the precincts. So, in other words, the Kim Branson area will not be paying a tax for this area where the rail will be. So we're trying to protect those outside areas that will have less ability to utilize this service, and especially outside of, that county precinct or that region of the precinct. So, not to be taxing folks for that representation and utilization of the rail at this point in time. And I believe that's how we'll be able to get this accomplished. So the taxation will be focused on the district itself and the precincts within the district.
Are there any assurances that if we're going to put this on the ballot for our district, are there any assurances that we're going to be part of the Front Range Rail at this point before we put it on the ballot?
So we are part of the Front Range Rail, period. In the legislation, Senate Bill 236, I can't remember the name of it, that was initiated from the state line to state line. That is the jurisdiction of the rail. The phasing of it was implemented by the former board, which was the Southwest Chief. And that's what we were given as a Front Range Rail to initiate the first leg of it. The first leg being Fort Collins to Pueblo. That is the issue that we are advocating as a board to make completion for the entire rail. But in the language, we're working that out with our legal staff, Tony, to make sure that everybody is represented if you're going to be taxed. So, in other words, how do we craft that into a ballot language to say stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, or phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, to make sure that everyone up and down the corridor who's going to be paying a tax on it will have representation and eventually rail. It's going to be 15 years for that first segment to be coming to completion and fruition. To order a train is 10 years out of the cars and the lawnmowers.
And when would that taxing incentive, when would it start?
That's still being discussed right now, how it will be implemented, and would it be implemented in phases for 2025 through 2030, 2035, if we were to implement it that way, or across the board all at once. So that's still being worked out with the board and with the legal staff, and with Tabor is also involved in this. So each county, some counties are not de-Bruced. So even though we're a separate entity, government agency, we are not going to be confined to a lot of the Tabor issues, but we have to be very careful how they move forward. So there is no legal strangleholds that will omit this from being on the ballot if we move to the ballot. So getting all the funding mechanism put in place first, and knowing what that money's going to cost, what it's going to need, if it's even feasible and obtainable at this time. So I will advocate, and I'll continue to advocate for Los Angeles and Northland County, who are appointed by the South Central Council of Governments, to make sure that we will be, if we are taxed part of this, we'll have a rail designated in this area in say 25 years. So, and Ty Winters, Representative Winters and I spoke about this, and he is supportive of that as well, as long as it is in writing of some sort. So there's a lot of activity with the rail right now, and again, Thursday, there'll be a media time at 12 o'clock at Union Station in Denver. So if any of you media want to go to Denver and get a glimpse of this, Feel free to reach out to the Front Range Passenger Rail website and get all the details moving forward at that time. We also had another work session on the first for contracts moving forward. And we do have a representative of labor, Jose Soto, who's the director on the Front Range Passenger Rail, who I'm glad he's there. He's very good at observing all of the labor perspective of awards, contracts, and so forth. And he had a real good catch of observing to make sure we have equal opportunity for all labor sources, including minorities and women groups, to be part of this bidding process as we move forward for Western Pine Funding. So that was a quite lengthy meeting as well. But there's a lot of strong members on this organization throughout, up and down the Front Range Rail District, from county commissioners to city municipalities, council of government board members. So, and everybody has that same concern. When am I going to get it? And how much it's going to cost? Or why am I going to be taxed unless I get it? And it's not just here. It's Boulder, it's Fort Collins, it's Greeley, it's all the way to the state line up north. So collectively, I think we can get there. And that's my report.
Thank you, sir. You know what, one of the great things is going to be the stakeholding that continues on this project, because the constituents really want to know. So briefly, I'm going to, last Thursday, I had an opportunity to spend the day at the Capitol testifying on a couple of issues. One of them, Representative Winter is introducing a bill to work with CDPHE, which was quite interesting. One of the recommendations that Representative Winter is put forth is a bill to allow farming and ranching communities to continue to use burn barrels as a process by which they can dispose of some of the cardboard that they need to burn. CDPHE identified that as an incinerator, which got caught up into a lot of definition and language, and they rather have us build an 8x8 pit on the ground and have the farmers burn openly, which, by the way, that was the opposition that I personally went and said, because that, we have had so many fires, specifically on District 3. One of the things that we did, invited CDPHE to come and visit with our public health. Thank you for being here, and talk to them, because, you know, the definition of an incinerator, we looked at federal law. There is no place in federal law that prohibits this. Obviously, there's going to be a concern. What are the farming and ranching communities burning? Well, like usual, they have been doing this for generations and hundreds of years. For us to say they're not going to do it, it's going to be a challenge. The bill, actually, after testimony, there were fire chiefs that testified. I was one of the commissioners that sat in front of, on behalf of rural Coloradans, that continue to afford us that measure, because the farmers actually said, you know, we had some farm and ranch communities, these are ventilated barrels that they circulate through, but it helps them to keep the ash inside of the barrel, because they put a lid on it. They all the embers are staying within, and on the testimony that we had, counties, Colorado counties, we debated that, and we had basically only one county that opposed and one county that abstained. The county that opposed, basically, they wanted more language in the bill, but one of the testimonials that Commissioner Tony has, when he was an EMT, that provided that he responded to an incident years back on an open fire, an 8x8x8, and Kim, we might need your help. They're going to be reaching out to you possibly, because, you know, at the end of the day, an open pit has the opportunity to create and grow into a fire, which is what Commissioner Tony has described, that he responded to an incident where a young kid was actually harmed in a fire simply because he was open ground. So that was interesting to sit there for quite a few hours and listen to the debate back and forth. But I tell you, when it came to Colorado counties, the support for that piece of legislation went forward with almost unanimous approval that farming and ranching communities need to be given the opportunity to do business the way they've always done it. They're obviously one of the biggest concerns that came out from one of our counties. Clear County actually put out there and said, well, what are they burning? So we cannot assure what they're burning more than we cannot assure what people are putting into a trash bin. So, but I think we have responsible farming ranching communities that they care about the environment, they care about their farming, they care about the whole thing. So that was one of those very interesting perspectives that we were able to see. Another bill that I had the opportunity to witness was the child foster care. Right now, the welfare system, our foster care system is really saturated. We're spending over $500 million in child welfare programs. I serve on the child welfare allocation formula for the entire state. I'm one of the board members, and so we just keep throwing money at it. One of the bills that is coming forward is actually proposing a legislation to have a next of kin, basically kinship foster care homes. Let's try, rather than putting kiddos into someone that is not familiar with the family, let's see if an uncle and aunt is interested in becoming a foster family, they too would be able to get the benefits of the foster care system. But I think the success of our child is going to be much greater being with the relative. We have a system that is dysfunctional. We have a system like any other state that is spending a lot of money. But I tell you, this Senate Bill 24008 actually gave us a bit of a hope to be able to work together. This is a huge bipartisan bill. It has two Republicans, two Democrats that came together and they said, you know, it is time to fix this issue. It is time to take a look at what the foster system is doing. And I'm a huge voice for the little ones throughout the state simply because we are tired of seeing them go from one house to the next, to the next, to the next. Briefly, when we were walking into the one of the committees, I had an opportunity to listen to the end of one of the bills that had to do with the Sheriff's Association of Colorado and Law Enforcement of Colorado, asking the Colorado legislature to help them in supporting in the event that they have an arrest, and they had three categories. They have an arrest of a murderer, sex offender, or a pedophile that just happens to be an illegal immigrant. They were asking the state legislature to work with ICE and just simply to begin the proceedings of the prosecution and or deportation. And that bill was killed right on the floor. I mean, it was in committee. Certainly, and the disheartening comment from the opponents of the bill is that some rights are going to be violated. Well, if you're stopping a pedophile that happens to be illegal, I think criminal charges need to be brought forth and then proceed. That was an interesting process. So let me extend to all of you, if you want to listen to the State House, to the State Senate, to various committees, it was an interesting walking into the tail end of that particular bill because I felt that law enforcement was betrayed, not giving them the tools to work and properly process whatever they need to do. My personal comment, not speaking on behalf of anybody else, but that was quite eye-opening. But nonetheless, the CCI meetings, we post all the bills that are impacting counties. We have them on our website, and you can look at and see what your counties are doing. As Commissioner Tony has, of the 46 bills that we were prompted to listen to in those last 2 days, there was an incredible amount of impact. And counties will always be against unfunded mandates. And a lot of these bills have mandates that our counties, of course, our citizens are the ones that are going to have to pick up the expense. The other one is we want to have at least local control to say, let us work with our constituents because there is a reason why I think counties know best. And then the last one, give us a seat at the table. If we don't have communication properly, well, obviously we're not going to be able to make those decisions in the fashion that is going to benefit our constituents. I have pages of notes, but that's going to be my report today. The Colorado counties holds their meetings once a month on the third week of each month through the legislative process. And throughout, there is opportunities for constituents, for anyone to testify on any of the legislation that is being set forth. So with that, we close section 3. We're going to go now to section 4, elected officials updates. Do we have anyone from the county assessor's office? Anyone from the clerk and recorder? By the way, today is election day, and our clerk's office is completely out of reach, I would imagine. Anyone from the treasurer's office?
Good morning, this is Donna. I have nothing to report at this time. Thank you.
Thank you and good morning. Anyone from the sheriff's office? Do we have a representative from the district attorney's office? Anyone from the coroner's office? Having that, we're going to go now to presentations. We have two presentations. First, we have ECMC, and these are new. This is a new acronym. Do we have Commissioner John Messner online? John, good morning, Commissioner. Great to see you, Commissioner, with and I'm going to ask him he was the Oil and Gas Conservation Commission, and now we have the Energy Conservation Carbon Management, I believe. But John, good morning and welcome, and great to have you. If you have any other guests with you, please introduce them. And right now, today, we're going to be talking about Senate Bill 23-186, and Commissioner Messner, who is with an appointee from the governor's office to this particular commission, will be walking us through the process of what to expect. And I believe one of the questions, I extended an invitation to our public health director, Ms. Kim Gonzalez, in the event that there's going to be any correlation between CDPHE and local public health. So if I may, let me call you by your first name, sir. John, welcome, and glad to have you here with us.
Thank you, Commissioner Lopez. Thank you, Commissioners, for having me here this morning. We're all still trying to remember what the new acronym is, the new name is for the former Colorado Oil and Gas Conservation Commission, which is now the Energy and Carbon Management Commission. And so that was a change of name and an expansion of some of our regulatory responsibilities that occurred during the last legislative session. I'm happy to chat a little more about that if you guys are interested in knowing the expanded role of ECMC. But happy to be here this morning. This morning we are here to talk about, as Commissioner Lopez indicated, Senate Bill 23-186, which was a bill that was passed last legislative session. The bill directs both ECMC and the Water Quality Control Division in CDPHE to identify methane seepage and measure seepage rates, as well as evaluate the quality of water produced from coal bed methane operations in the Raton Basin. It was a bill that was a bipartisan bill sponsored by Representative Whitner, Senator Pelton, Senator Whitner, and Representative Wilford last legislative session. With me here today is Greg Carano, who's the environmental manager for ECMC, Rick Allison, who is the Northeast Area Environmental Protection Specialist and Groundwater Investigation Lead for the Energy and Carbon Management Commission, as well as Nathan Moore, who's the Clean Water Program Manager for the Water Quality Control Division at CDPHE. So we'll give you a quick presentation on what the bill entails. It does require coordination with both Los Angeles County as well as Huerfano County. We've taken some pretty strong steps towards implementation of this legislation. I wanted to give you an update on that, and of course, be available to answer any questions that you may have. So with that, I'd like to kick it over to Mr. Allison, who will give you a PowerPoint presentation on the work that's been done.
Thank you, sir, and welcome.
Thanks, Commissioner Messner. Thank you, County Commissioners, for having us this morning. As John said, I'm Rick Allison. I'm an environmental protection specialist and essentially the project manager for this project for the ECMC. I'm going to try sharing a presentation with you. And hopefully that's effective and you see it in
Yes, sir.
presentation mode. Great. Okay, so moving on. As Commissioner Messer said during the 2023 session, the legislature passed Senate Bill 23-186. And that bill directed the ECMC and the Water Quality Control Division within the Department of Public Health and Environment to conduct a study in the Rotunda Basin with two main objectives. First, the study directs ECMC and WQC to conduct a study that identifies best management practices for capturing methane seepage in the basin and evaluate the quality of produced water from whole bed methane operations with an evaluation of the potential to beneficially use the CBM produced water. ECMC and WQC have divided this project into two tasks. They're somewhat related, but they have a different emphasis on each type of work. The legislation also directs ECMC and Water Quality Control Division to collaborate with coordinate with state agencies and local governments. We've held some initial meetings with the Colorado Energy Office, the Division of Water Resources, the Division of Mining and Reclamation Safety, and Colorado Parks and Wildlife. Most of those divisions are co-located within the Department of Natural Resources, along with ECMC. In the past, the Division of Reclamation and Mining Safety has previously provided ECMC with maps of former and active coal mines and core holes in the area, and we're incorporating those into the seepage study. Division of Water Resources will have any determination over the ability of CBM produced water to be used outside of oil field operations with respect to water rights or determination of the need for augmentation plans. CPW is provided in a couple of areas. One is they have an ongoing effort to collect surface water data in the watershed feeding Trinidad Lake. We're discussing that data with them and how best to incorporate it into our study. Their CPW coordination is also instrumental in conducting the upcoming field work so that we can do that in a manner to just minimize or avoid any disruptions to the wildlife populations, and especially during hunting seasons. And then, of course, we're here today to begin our coordination with you all, local governments, Los Angeles County, and next week we'll be discussing with Huerfano County at their meeting. And so our intent is to kind of introduce where we are with the project and lay out our timeline. ECMC has largely taken the lead on the methane seepage portion of the study. The legislation requires ECMC to proactively and systematically locate and survey methane gas seepage in the Rotunda Basin, document previous areas of seepage, calculate differences in seepage amounts, and assess the potential for methane to create hazardous conditions. To accomplish these objectives, ECMC recently awarded contracts to two contractors to assist in carrying out this portion of the study. Awards were made to Solom and Dolan Integration Group. The staff at Solom have a long history of working in the Rotunda and San Juan basins and have experience in seep identification, seep mapping, and measuring seepage rates. And Dolan is an expert third-party geochemist and will assist ECMC reviewing gas analytical data, including gas composition and stable isotope analysis, to help us, hopefully identify sources of seeps or whether or not, the gas is related to production gas or some other gas source. So the methane seepage mapping portion of the project is divided into several phases of work. Beginning with an evaluation of all of our existing data. There's been much work completed over the previous 20 plus years, including 3 driving surveys and a survey conducted by Pioneer Natural Resources and a portion of the basin that's near some of the coal line features. Approximately 60 potential seepage areas have previously been identified by the driving surveys that were conducted by Apogee Scientific on behalf of COGCC. And our current contractor, Solom, is collating all this information and combining that with published geologic maps, looking at coal outcrop locations, geologic structures, the intrusive features like the dikes in the area, and combining all this information to provide a base of knowledge for known seeps as well as where we suspect additional seeps could be located. Then based on that step, then we'll use a subcontractor, Bridger Photonics, to fly a portion of the basin with a helicopter that's fitted with a LiDAR system to systematically locate seeps in some of the areas that are more difficult to access and might be missed by the driving surveys alone. So we expect to complete planning for this phase of the project in April or May of this year, and flights will hopefully occur sometime around early June if conditions are favorable. ECMC considered several technologies when issuing a request for proposals and while evaluating our proposals. And we ultimately determined that this approach would be most effective given the funding allocated for the project and the information we already have. Specifically, repeat of a driving survey, we did not yield anything new, and that we would be able to cover a little bit more ground this way. We also previously have had some collaboration with the Air Quality Control Division within the State Department of Public Health and Environment, and AQCE has been helping ECMC evaluate technologies. They have experts that are running several projects evaluating methane emissions across multiple oil and gas basins in the state. And so their experience is very beneficial to us also in evaluating these technologies. A couple other ideas that we've seen that we did evaluate were fixed wing aircraft and drone flights. And we determined they both had distinct disadvantages relative to the helicopter flight. Fixed wing flight could be somewhat efficient in terms of the time amount you would spend flying and could cover large areas of the basin, but it's too coarse of a scale for what we're trying to do with this study. Specifically, we're not able to easily discern between seepage areas for ground seepage and, for instance, coal bed methane, any losses that might be happening during coal bed methane production. And that's an important distinction we want to be able to make.
Mr. Edson, can I ask you a question? This is Commissioner House. At what altitude do these helicopters fly when they're doing this study?
That's a good question. They're relatively low flying compared to the aircraft. I might have to get back to you on specific elevations. They are going to be somewhat limited by the terrain effect. So may not be able to get down very far into some of the valleys and canyons.
Well, that's not my district, and I know Commissioner Felix Lopez is going to be catching a lot of calls.
Sure, and so we're definitely planning to have a follow-up discussion with you all about these flights. might be when we have the exact areas we propose to fly and the dates that we plan to do that.
And if I may, I have a question as well. In your presentation, it discussed, I've looked at the next 3 pages, basic verbiage of methane seepage. Is this terminology collective of all seepage from wells that are active and of natural occurrence, or just of natural occurrence?
The term seepage in the legislation is for natural occurrence, so we don't, we're not going to be measuring emission rates from oil and gas facilities as part of the study. We're going to be focusing on basically the ground seepage.
Thank you.
Go ahead and proceed, Mr. Ellison.
Yes, one more, I'm sorry. Was there another question?
No, go ahead and proceed.
Okay. The other technology that's out there would be the use of drones, and we did investigate that, and Air Quality Control Division was actually last fall able to help us experiment on some seeps near Trinidad Lake over state park land, and some seeps that are on some of the properties owned and operated by Oakers operating. And the big disadvantage there is their limited lifetime and in their ability to detect an unknown seep. You basically need to know where to put your drone and where to fly it. You already have to know that seep with you go. And again, we do anticipate in the coming months we're fully developing that plan for the aerial survey and having follow-up discussions with you all so that you all know, your community knows, we can address concerns with the helicopter flight.
Yeah, so Mr. Ellison, this is Commissioner Felix Lopez. One question that I have as I was going through the report that was issued by the governor last week through your agency and also through CDPHE, I have 2 questions. What happens when you have some of the seepage in private property that has been there perhaps for centuries, and then we have state and federal lands? Are those being documented as well? And I know the bill made an appropriation to work with the county, Los Angeles County, and our oil and gas director, Mr. Bob Lucero, who happens to probably know more about this than I'll ever understand. But how are you going to be dealing with the private property seepage as well as some that is located within the operating field of Evergreen Natural Resources and then state and federal lands?
I want to make sure I understand the question. Are you talking about maybe a mitigation?
Correct.
Okay. I think as far as this study goes, the way the legislation is written, we're really focused on identifying the seeps, and there's a best management practices for mitigation identified, but it does not direct us or really didn't appropriate any funds for us to actually perform mitigation. So we're going to be limited to identifying and measuring seeps, and then hopefully being able to propose if mitigation is necessary or appropriate. And that's really going to depend on flux rate, what a hazard of a seep would be. So in terms of that phase, we can't even measure a seep on private property without access. So we're going to have to coordinate with the landowners of their private properties and have them, be willing to allow our contractors on there to do those measurements. And in terms of mitigation, really probably the trickiest part of the situation. And like I said, it's kind of hard to answer what mitigation would be until you, or if it would even be, if the effort would even be effective until we have maybe the rate measurements in hand. And I'm kind of thinking, we have a mitigation system going in the San Juan Basin. I know if the sport is familiar with that. There's basically a soil vapor collection system that collects the methane and consumes it in a turbine to produce electricity for the grid. And that's a fairly large seep compared to a lot of the seeps we know exist in the Raton Basin. It's really going to depend on the size of whether or not something can or probably should be mitigated. It's probably the best answer I can give you at this stage.
Mr. Edelson, Commissioner Haas again. So where does that financial burden fall on for mitigation? Does it fall on the private property owner or?
So I don't think.
Maybe, Rick, let me jump in here quick.
Yeah, please.
So, I mean, the bill itself is just an evaluation of methane seepage, and it was really a bill that was encouraged in the legislature by operators that are operating inside of Los Angeles and Huerfano County in order to better understand the methane seepage that's occurring in the area and to see if operationally these operators would have any opportunity to be able to mitigate through oil and gas operations any kind of natural seepage that may be occurring. And so we're not talking mitigation at this point, we're really just looking at, is there methane seepage occurring? And if so, what's the rate, and try to be able to better understand the lay of the land. And I think that's what some of the operators in the basin were interested in better understanding, and therefore the legislation was created to really develop that mapping and better understand kind of the lay of the land. And so that's really all this is that right now there's no next step associated with this except for data gathering.
Thank you, John. And this is Commissioner Felix Lopez. What about the communication that is perhaps already ongoing with the operators within Huerfano and Los Angeles County? What is their response and engagement with your office?
Well, I mean, Rick, I can take this if you want, but I mean, we will continue to engage with the operators as they have significant operations throughout the basin. This study is independent of them, but inevitably we coordinate with local governments as well as the operators as we develop the programs that we're implementing here. So we're in constant communication with the operators in there.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may, this is Commissioner Luis Lopez. I have one last question on seepage before you move on to your presentation. For all the years I've been serving in this seat, we've heard from the oil and gas industry of how natural seepage occurs. And with their gas production in Los Angeles County, it reduces that natural seepage because they're containing and drilling for this gas. Will this study address that as well? Is there any concern on that? Or is there any truth to that statement of how that will alleviate some of the natural seepage by having gas production in Los Angeles County? I know it's a tough one, but do you have any information or data on that?
Well, I mean, I think that's part of why this study was developed, is the operators want to try to have data that backs up the arguments that they're making, that there's a benefit to the operations that they are developing in the area. This is data gathering, and I don't have any conclusions. We're not going in with any expectations of what the data is going to say, and so we'll continue to move forward with the process and be able to do the evaluation and then build this information on top of previous studies that they've done. So there's been a number of different studies over the years that have happened on this topic, and this was really I developed it to build upon that information And we'll see what the data says at the end of this day.
Great, thank you, I appreciate that.
Sorry, Nick, I didn't mean to do that.
No, thanks, that's helpful, and I was gonna stress too, I guess, in terms of mitigation, it doesn't, we have not been directed to enact any sort of, rulemaking or require anyone to mitigate a seep, so just because, you might know a seep is naturally occurring somewhere on someone's property, whether it be owned by the federal government, state, county, or private entity, it doesn't direct us to identify, ways to require anyone to conduct any mitigation. And I was about to touch on some of that issue about measuring difference in seepage rates. And that gets to whether or not the coal bed methane production is affecting seepage rate in the basin. And one of the problems we have with that is there is no baseline to compare previous seepage rates in the basin at this time. So there weren't any known mapping efforts of seep rates, how much volume or mass of methane was naturally seeping from the ground prior to coal bed methane development. But we do view this as an opportunity, as Commissioner Messer said, is to develop a baseline of flux measurements, and perhaps we can provide a level, a determination on the level of effort required going forward to maybe continue those seepage rate measuring efforts, and see if it's valuable to point forward, see if they're increasing or decreasing from this point in time. But unfortunately, we can't go into the past and get that data. And I believe that's what this slide was alluding to. So based on the results of the December 2024 efforts, we will begin summarizing the data and preparing reports, including gas analysis interpretations, hopefully some idea of the source of the gas, and a report of the potential for methane seeps to create hazard conditions. The two major methane hazards that we really know about are for a seepage to collect in an area creating a dangerous environment. So that's really probably looking at a point source mitigation if that were to be the case. And we know about the presence of methane in water wells, whether that's naturally occurring in some circumstances or caused by human activities and others. So then that brings us to the water quality section of the study, and that's the second major phase of the project. To study the quality of the CBM produced water, the potential for it to be beneficially used. This is where ECMC and WQC are jointly working on the effort, and we've each engaged contractors to aid us in evaluating that water. ECMC is using Dolan Integration Group also for this phase of work. And WQC also has an independent contractor of their own. We recognize we already have thousands of produced water samples and domestic water well samples in the area. We've also got data from the surface water discharges of produced water that Water Quality Control administers. So we currently have our contractors, again, collating that data to help us identify what gaps and additional sampling we might need to undertake. And that's certainly going to be an area where we're going to be working with the industry to collect additional produced water samples or additional analytes we think are going to be important to evaluate the quality of the water.
So Rick, Mr. Ellison, one of Commissioner Felix Lopez, we heard from a lot of the landowners on that part of the county that this produced water is of quality good enough as it stands today before we go into the data collection, that it has sustained the wildlife and a lot of the farming and ranching communities' livestock for many years now, and the idea of lining some of the wells in the new rule-making process that took place a while back became almost a waste of that water that was being extracted. Hopefully, throughout this study, would there be an opportunity to go back and change some of the rules where the water can actually be, if it meets the quality standards for ag production and wildlife survival. We have one of the most pristine wildlife areas in the state of Colorado. With, you name it, we have it, elk, deer, antelope, bear, who knows what all we have in those mountains. But, at the end of the day, that's what we heard from a lot of the landowners. Let us use the water for production rather than injecting it back on the wells. And otherwise, as we are seeing a lot of these wells not being lined, not accessible to wildlife, where do you think the study is going to lead to? Since we have heard all the comments, and also the state legislature did a field trip last summer where several of the senators and representatives from both sides of the aisle visited some of the producing wells, and the testing was going on in there, and as this part of the state is simply has been a victim of a very long, perhaps 20 or so years of drought. This water is so imperative for the survival of all the above mentioned. So hopefully the study is going to yield where the farming and ranching in the county can use the water for beneficial purposes rather than having to put it right back in the ground, and simply it was kind of a mirage.
Yeah, we certainly understand that component, and I think there's probably general agreement that to the extent water quality data shows it's appropriate for a certain use, there may be an ability to identify some of those uses. Like I said, we're really early. We're going to see where the data leads us, and with respect to what literature we have on water quality for livestock, and just kind of follow where the results point it. So it's maybe a little early. I can't really say where I expect the answer to be until we get that evaluation done.
If I
Well,
may,
and I think as well, understand that, I think this legislation came out of some of the conversations that were developed by some of the different legislators visiting the county and some of the presentations that were given. And so we have to let the science guide us on this as far as doing an evaluation. This is a study, and so the study should be able to provide clarity on what next steps could be for this particular situation without predetermining any outcomes.
Commissioner Messner, thank you for that. Was it a little over a year and a half ago? The Oil and Gas Commission met here in Los Angeles County, and some of these discussions took place regarding local control. And I believe at that meeting we had at one of the hotels here, we had a discussion with breakfast. I mentioned being a Board of Health member and somewhat volunteered on behest to our Director, Kim Gonzalez, of possibly utilizing the Los Angeles County Health Department in assisting moving forward. And I'd just like to reiterate that fact here while this study is being conducted and moving forward, when the parameters have been qualified, moving forward for the baseline of water to be utilized in production or produced water to be utilized by our farmers and ranchers, that we reserve that and authorize the local public health to assist the ECMC moving forward for collection, their data, or any reason that could be possibly identified for the local control for our ranchers and farmers. And I believe that the local public health department can really be a true benefit for our oil and gas industry, our farmers and ranchers, as well as the ECMC moving forward. So just a reminder that we do have that entity available in Los Animas and Huerfano County moving forward. That's just a statement. I wasn't looking for a response, so thank you.
Thank you for offering your support. We definitely appreciate the extra help. And really, this is just to wrap up the timeline. So like I said, again, right now in the spring, we've got contracts in place and we're just collating the data that we do have. This summer is going to be the major part of the field season for both the methane seepage survey and seep rate measuring, any additional water collection that we identify we need to do. And then beginning this fall, we'll be really digging into the data analysis and developing our conclusions. The legislation requires a study be final and delivered to the legislature by the end of the next fiscal year on June 30th, 2025. So that's the hard end date for our study. And hopefully we're ahead of that quite a bit by working on this through the winter. And that's all we have, and we appreciate the questions so far. And if there are any others, we're happy to take them. Or Nathan, if you have any additional comments.
No, thank you, Rick. You covered that very well on this, but I am here if anyone has any questions.
Thank you, Commissioners. Do we have any other questions? Commissioner Messner, thank you so much. And we'll stay in contact. If there is any, please, let's use the two-way communication with Los Animas County, whether it is directly to any one of the commissioners or directly to Mr. Phil Dorenkamp, our county administrator. And one thing that coming out of this whole thing, very, very key component to know that part of the communication could be had with our local public health as they're the liaison for all things health in Los Animas County. I think him and you walk away with another to-do list on your plate, but thank you for being here today. And Mr. Lucero, any questions from your perspective to this group?
I guess I have one question.
Please come up to, so they can hear you. Mr. Lucero is our oil and gas director, and he has been with the county for over 2 decades and has tremendous experience in this field.
I guess I had one question. There were some studies done by the COGCC. The last one was done in 2015. I think they were done in stages on the methane seepage. How does this tie in with the information that was done back then?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Castro. This study really builds on that. Those are the previous surveys we're incorporating kind of into our baseline now. As areas where seeps were previously identified, we're definitely going to go back to. One of the challenges with the driving survey is they just sort of like detected methane in an area and said there's probably a seep in this area. So some areas they were fairly obvious, but a lot of those were very, very low level detections. But yeah, that's going to feed into our planning for this next stage of work and where we should have a contractor looking.
Thank you.
Commissioner Messner and team, we do not have any other questions. Thank you, and thank you for giving us your time. And please know that we can certainly invite you to reach out to us as often as you see it necessary.
Thank you, Commissioner Lopez. Thank you, Commissioners, for having us here. Always a pleasure to engage with Los Animas County and look forward to continuing to have conversations as we move forward with the studies. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Have a great day.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
On section 5 presentations, now let me call Mr. Kyle Fitzgerald with Western Grid Solar. Good morning and welcome.
How are you guys doing?
Doing well, thank you.
I'm going to start with an apology. I meant to print out everything. Yesterday was longer than I thought.
You can always submit that later on to Mr. Doran Camp and you
Okay.
can. Yes.
If I use an acronym that you haven't heard or it's double used in government, feel free to ask a question. I'm here because Tracy Phillips of CPACE asked me to kind of speak to the government that approved of it in Los Angeles County. CPACE is 100% financing for almost all energy efficiency upgrades. I sell solar, but if you need new insulation or new windows, 100% financing post-installation. They put private financing through a public lender. That's the program. I believe the government here approved of it 7-8 years ago. So I don't know if anyone was elected at that point. The other government officials that kind of asked me to speak were the Department of Energy, Eric Lowe, who offers 60% grants on the cost of the installation. So say we put $1,000 worth of solar on the roof, we get $600 back as a nonprofit here. That's awesome. I brought my contractor, excuse me, I'm getting ahead of myself. It's 80% back from a USDA REAP. That's Renewable Energy for America program, I believe. The USDA is in a little bit of disarray as Armando Valdez stepped down in December and everybody's shuffling around at this point. But I spoke with Cindy Chadwick about it. What it is 30% is an income. This is for business and like commercial property and agricultural properties, if that makes sense. And this is the for-profit side. They also get the REAP grant that's 50% cash back. So you combine the income tax rebate for solar or energy upgrades of any kind, and then you get the 50% grant as a business owner. I brought Leonardo Dominguez down. He owns Topping Out Steel, and he's my business partner at Western Grid. They build 10 to 25 story steel structures, and they do a lot of things under building skyscrapers. My background's in commercial real estate via finance. I met a private lender when I was 23. Most of my work's in Denver, and I'm not going to name small businesses that nobody's ever heard of. But I have a pretty good handle on how to structure the loans via CPACE. And I have had the conversations at the state summits that lay out the grants. I was kind of hoping to have a private conversation, but here we are, right? I spoke to Joey DeGarbo yesterday about his bank acting as one of the lenders for CPACE in Los Angeles County. Because frankly, like, no second stories downtown are renovated. He's all ears. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask away.
I have a couple, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald, for being here today with us and giving some information on Western Grid Solar. My question to you is, you mentioned large corporations or skyscrapers and constructions of big corporations. And then you also, in the same presentation, you discussed the downtown buildings here in Los Angeles County and the city of Trinidad in particular. Is your organization and these grants and loans available to residents and small residential opportunities?
Residential is a whole different animal. It's through residential property assessed clean energy, and it's done through the Colorado Renew program. I need those notes in front of me.
So you're predominantly for commercial use?
Today, yeah.
Okay.
We have two entities topping out solar for residential. And he doesn't handle the installation, but say we put solar panels on the well building or this building. I want a real installer that's used the equipment before.
So my follow-up question to identifying at this point what your application would be, follow up to that question would, have you reached out to the city of Trinidad and their power ARPA authority for integration and how much energy can be put back into the grid utilizing the services you're discussing?
I'd honestly not like to answer that question, as I was told by Les Downs not to talk.
So
I hate to say it like that, but there's a reason I'm here today.
There's some issues with the Arkansas River Power Authority in accepting power back into the grid at maximum minimum levels that I'm aware of. That's why I was referencing this question. And
right.
If that has been overcome at this point, I'm assuming not.
Well, tomorrow I'm meeting with Christine Loudon and Branson, who's been talking to San Isabel on how to do this correctly.
Through that organization,
right.
But not through the city of Trinidad.
Not through the city yet. I'm trying to go around.
I understand your hurdles. I
hate to say it like that.
Thank you. And I have no other questions.
So, you know what, thank you so much, Mr. Fitzgerald. What we did is we did approve a CPAs. And there is also a piece of legislation that passed a couple of years ago, I believe, Mr. Dorncamp, where any building that is 50,000 or larger square feet has to comply with the Office of Energy to have so much renewable energy and renewables upon the renovation of these buildings. So some of the local investors in our community actually are going through the process and reaching out to the local government, which was us. We did work with Tracy Phillips. He did a presentation for all of us.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I think, from the perspective is now, what happens when a building is renovated? When a building is renovated and it needs all the lead and all the renewables in the process, the question for us came, exactly what Commissioner Luis Lopez is posing, is how much of that renewable energy, electricity can be produced by and through the powers of ARPA. You don't have to go there. So right now we're navigating that process.
Technically, the agreement with the city that they published in 2022 allows commercial buildings to not exceed 100% solar. So pumping it back to the grid is kind of a moot question, as I understood it from their contract.
So I think, Mr. Dorrington, we did a presentation a while back, and I think it was 25%. I believe it was 25K. 25K. Yeah, 25 kilowatts that you cannot produce any more than that. So nonetheless, these are minutia. If you have any additional information documents, please submit them, and then we can 100%. And I think, our recommendation to you would be, who owns a 50,000 square foot building in Los Angeles County within the city of Trinidad that can actually would benefit from CPAs? I know a while back there was some, as I mentioned, private investors that really wanted to apply through the process, go through there. They identify their investors as grant. Then, of course, they went through the ESCO process, the energy conservation process, and then the building concept. And for us as a county, the reason we supported that simply is because it was to enhance some of the buildings that otherwise are going to sit there for quite a long time. So,
Right.
yeah.
I'm talking to Trinidad Abstract, A.R. Mitchell, and a couple other larger buildings
Okay.
for that reason. But don't get stuck on the 50,000 square feet.
Okay.
It's anything commercial, anything zoned agricultural in the county is eligible.
Okay.
Which is kind of why I'm going outside the city limits this trip, but I want to make myself available inside the city limits.
Christine Loudon and her family out there are a very good source of information for you.
Oh, absolutely.
Her father being a former county commissioner was able to serve with for 2 years, and he's wealth of knowledge. So.
Oh, absolutely. They're the best. No offense to you guys.
And thank you for, and again, if you have any other questions, Commissioners?
I'd like to thank you and Mr. Dominguez for being with us today. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Next, we're going to go to the next item. Public comment. We have Mr. Tom Murphy.
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
2 years ago, Dave Shire went missing. To this day, there's never been a criminal case that's been opened. 4 years ago, Timothy Radford was murdered out at the fairgrounds. He was, his hands were bound and there was a bullet behind the back of his head. Last year in September, Frederick Huff was exhumed from the Starkville Cemetery. And underneath Mr. Huff was a body that was fresher, anywhere from 4 months to 2 years. In September of last year, when the body was exhumed, our Los Angeles County coroner had 4 to 5 to almost 6 months now before the CBI and DORA were involved and had a chance to be transparent and tell us exactly what the situation was. He chose not to do that. While I was sitting here, the news popped up that Los Angeles County just paid out $1.5 million for the sheriff's office and the tasing incident. So, with that being said, we know that government's not coming to save us. So, this last week, we have notified the Secretary of State, myself and Rosemary Shire and Morgan Shire. We've sent an email to Carrie Apple as the code reporter. We're opening a bank account. Thanks to Rosemary's efforts, we came up with the name for our committee, which is the Citizens for Coroner Accountability. And we're going to begin the process of recalling Mr. Barker. I don't do this lightly. This isn't my first rodeo. In 2002, oddly enough, with Carl sitting here, Carl, I repealed his historic preservation ordinance. And Carl still speaks to me. It's not easy. In 2011, we recalled a councilman that was allegedly a pedophile, but also had committed an egregious act by leaving a meeting. In 2012, we passed House Bill 1068. I did, by myself, with the cemeteries. So this isn't easy to do, but I know it's our role to take an active participation in government, because it's not your job to save us. We can do that ourselves. And so, thank you. But it is, again, it's Citizens for Coroner Accountability. And with my 29 seconds, I will let you know, too, that the legislature is now, after 40-some years, going to reinstate, hopefully, some licensure on funeral homes and other things that have allowed us to be one of the worst states in the country. We are the only state that doesn't have licensing for funeral homes. And from that, we've gotten some bad actors. And we are hopeful that we can move forward and take action. And sorry, Carl, but it's what citizens do when we have to take government into our hands.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Anyone else for public comment online? We don't have any items on public hearing at 10 a.m., so now we're going to move to, we don't have any items on unfinished business. We're going to go to new business. 9A, consideration of Fairgrounds Phase 1, RFQ consultant selection. Mr. Dorringham.
You should bear with me when I catch up. For your consideration, Commissioners, is our Fairgrounds Phase 1 RFQ consultant selection. Myself and other team members interviewed 3 different submittals for this. And I want to touch upon some of the high points, that being whenever we looked at the direct costs of construction, soft cost tables, an estimated guaranteed maximum price. Nellie, which was one of the consultants that submitted a RFQ response, 80% overhead, Art Valley, 5% overhead, Trinidad Construction, 17% overhead. The scoping phase fee, Nellie had 45,000, Art Valley 187,000, and Trinidad Construction left that blank. Also within the allowances and contingencies, Nellie had $52,150, Art Valley 175,000, Trinidad Construction also left that blank. And provided self-perform, 66,556 for Millie, Art Valley 170, Trinidad Construction left that blank. Through our interviews and discussions with these companies, I frankly think that any one of the 3 could perform what we need done out at the fairgrounds. I think my question comes back into which one we believe can do a good job for the citizens of this county at the best price. And also a concern of what consultants completed the RFQ, I would say in full, or at least in full. So that being said, I want to touch upon that Trinidad Construction Group. Within the RFQ, there was 30 requirements that, what I call our bullet point requirements, and approximately 13 of them left blank or weren't addressed. And then on the soft table, 5 of the 19 were not addressed. The soft table and direct costs. So it's difficult for me, and I believe I can speak for our team that did these interviews and in the order to make a recommendation to the board. It was difficult for us to do a fair analysis with so many of our requirements not addressed. When we did interview, they did address them verbally, but I have concerns about me trying to take notes at the speed that person can talk and make sure that those notes reflect accuracy. These RFQs were due, I believe, last Friday, or Thursday or Friday, frequently was the deadline. And so, that being said, my recommendation, I believe I can speak on behalf of the team that assisted in the evaluation and the interviews, would be to go with Art Valley Construction.
Thank you, Mr. Dorringham. Commissioners, any questions? I do have a couple of questions here.
Just one comment, and Art Valley came in almost 300,000 under the other opponent, right?
Well, Commissioner, it's a hypothetical that we add to our RFQs, but correct. Through the hypothetical, they would be about $300,000 less expensive than what Millick is, and about $200,000 more expensive than what Trinidad Construction is. But Trinidad Construction, as I mentioned, has left some of those direct costs in a soft table lines or cells blank, so we're not comparing apples to apples, in my opinion.
You said that some of the responses to your questions were given to you on the interview process. Is that within the parameter of the deadline accepting?
No.
Okay.
Chairman, if I may, to start off on this project years ago, we have, I'd like to give credit where credit is due with Kim Gonzalez here today with us. She was the inspiration and the point of contact for the university that we were able to utilize in the same manner that she would for the health department in North County in designing and moving forward with some of those things. So I'd like to thank Kim personally for giving us that organization and what a true benefit it's been for us to finally come to see this process moving forward to fruition. So thank you, Kim, for your efforts and what you're doing with the health department. We wouldn't have had this, we would have had to spend a lot more money without having that organization available to us. So thank you for that. My comment regarding the moving forward the RFQ is I'm a very fond commissioner in giving as much local work as we can locally, as always, to our contractors moving forward. And utilizing the 5% authority that we have regarding the grace of any bid that comes in, and always have been authority, or enjoying utilizing local construction groups to their full potential and utilizing that in the capacity of the Board of County Commissioner. However, I'm also a very big proponent of moving forward with following the rules and regulations that we set in place regarding any contracts or RFQs or parameters that the Board of County Commissioners have set forth beforehand, going out to bid for anything at this point. So, having said that, I would go forward at this point following Mr. Dornkamp's recommendation.
You're going to put that in the form of a motion?
Ready, Chairman, for a motion?
There's any discussion.
Councilor, do you have any concerns? With that said, I will make the motion to approve the Fairgrounds Phase 1 RFQ consultant selection for Arc Valley.
And I agree that there's certain protocols that have to be followed, especially when there's a deadline in the application process. So I'll second the motion.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Luis Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Felix Lopez?
Yes. Nine B, consideration of Planning Commission Board appointment, Mr. Dornkamp.
Commissioners, for your consideration is, Rebecca, there's a vacancy in our planning commission that the board was allowed to fill that vacancy, and county administrative assistant Paula Searle submitted requested letters of interest be submitted to the county, and I believe she got one submission via email, that was from Mr. Tom Wood. So I ask the board to approve Mr. Berger for that planning commission vacancy.
You guys served on that particular board for so many years. Commissioners, any discussion? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve Tom Berger as the planning commission board appointment.
Second.
Mr. Luis Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Hess?
Yes.
Mr. Felix Lopez?
Yes.
One comment, Chairman. A big thank you for Mr. Tom Berger for his willingness to serve our public, our community for all these years. And a really true thank you to him, and it was a testament to our community, and a big thank you to him and his family. For him.
32 years.
32 years. We should get him a cake or something. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the board's consideration of Colorado Parks and Wildlife Regional Partnership Initiative, RFQ consultant selection, Mr. Dornkamp.
Commissioners, for your consideration is the consultant selection for our Colorado Parks and Wildlife Regional Partnership Initiative, RFQ. Had 4 companies, firms submit their RFQs, CDR, GEO, EJD, and Core Reflection. Our team interviewed each of these 4 entities, and our recommendations to go with CDR. CDR, along with a couple of other partners on this, are familiar with our area. They're the ones that help us with economic and rec impact study and also Fisher Street master plan. The other 3 companies would have to read up on all of those plans as part of the CPW RPI in order to get momentum that would gain off of those 2 studies and keep pressing forward with trying to actually get some tangible projects in place. And also, one of the partners with CDR, one of their board members, is actually managing the outside 285 CPW RPI. So they're experienced with these RPIs, and the our recommendation is go CDR. And the staff wants to add any comments, please.
Any concerns from council?
Commissioner, if I could add one more comment. This is going to be paid by a CPW RPI grant.
Yes. Any additional discussion, questions, commissioners? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the Colorado Parks and Wildlife Regional Partnership Initiative RFQ consultant selection with CDR and Associates.
Second the motion.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Luis Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Felix Lopez?
Yes, 9B, consideration of IFB 24-R002, HMA placement. Mr. Thornton.
Commissioner, before you for consideration is IFB 24-R002, hot mix asphalt placement on various county roads and also that short road just north of the home school. That road will be paid, or excuse me, that project will be paid for by CDOT Main Street grants. We submitted an application, we're awarded just a little over $56,000 for that project. And the low bidder A&S for that project came in at $62,255, which puts us a little over budget there. If the board decides to go with A&S, on the sheet in your packet, I made little X's to the right-hand side of those line items that we can do in-house, because we do have some in-kind that we need to fulfill. And then we get that project right back in the budget. I think it's $400 over. Once we would do that, but that would be a change order forthcoming. That's not what you're considering today. And then on the paving part, A&S submitted a low bid of $1,588,922 for that paving of those 3 county roads. And we've got budget there 129, so we come with the board with a change order to increase the paving on those 3 different kind of segments. So a long-winded way of telling you is the bid results for pavement management services, $2,203,075.30, Walson Sand and Gravel, $1,972,504.50, Old Castle, Southwest Route, doing business as ADC 7, $2,630,000, $2,630,631, $2,630,631, and A&S Construction, $1,651,180. That's the vote to approve A&S's bid of $1,651,800.
Commissioners, any clarification, discussion, questions?
Just one question on the in-house projects that you've indicated here. Would we be able to complete those with our staffing at this time, pretty much in the same order or time frame that we would have done with the contractors?
Yes, we will.
I have a motion.
Sir, I'll entertain a motion.
I
I would move to approve AMS Construction's bid of $1,651,180 for IFB 24-R002 HMA replacement.
Second motion.
Mr. Luis Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Hess?
Yes.
Mr. Felix Lopez?
Yes. 9E, consideration of liquor license renewal for Sam's Place. Council?
I've reviewed the application, it's complete.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioners, Mr. Berman, anyone else? Any additional comments? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve liquor license renewal for Sam's Place.
Second motion.
Mr. Hess?
Yes.
Mr. Luis Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Felix Lopez?
Yes. 9F, consideration of PWB GOCO grant letter of support. Mr. Dorgan?
Commissioner, before you for consideration is a letter of support for Purgatory Water Partners local grant application.
Thank you, Julie, for bringing this to us. Any questions, any comments? Otherwise, I will entertain a motion.
I would like to say that Purgatory Water Partnership sets the standard of being a good partner. And I would move to approve the PWP GOCO grant letter of support.
Second motion.
Mr. Luis Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Hess?
Yes.
Mr. Felix Lopez?
Yes.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you. 9G, consideration of Prairie Stokes ACM waiver, Mr. Dorgan.
Commissioners, we sent out RFQs, I guess, 6, 7, 8 months ago, after we received funding for the mitigation of some hazardous materials out of Prairie Stokes Airport, specifically in the terminal, that we solicited and were awarded Brownsfield cleanup grant for that. The contractor that came in least expensive and the board approved is All Pro. All Pro now is asking that the board approve a project management waiver. Seeing how it's such a small project, I personally don't have an issue. The state of Colorado, via email and phone conversations, doesn't have an issue with it because it's a small project. There still be required to have a third party after the cleanup go in and inspect to make sure that everything indeed was done that they were contracted to do. So I would recommend the board to go ahead and approve this project manager waiver.
And thank you. That's, we're going to give a certificate of our cleanup payment regardless, with or without the project. Thank you. Any questions, commissioners?
Commissioner, similar to what happened in the basement here a few years back. There was no project manager on that.
Just one question for legal counsel. There's no issues that I can see, anything that you noticed for moving forward?
No.
Okay.
I will entertain the motion.
Motion to approve the Paris Stokes ACM waiver.
Second the motion.
Mr. Hess?
Yes.
Mr. Luis Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Felix Lopez?
Yes, 9H, consideration of resolution 24-015 appointing John Jenkins to the 911 Board of Directors. Do you have resolutions, Mr. Dorgan?
Yes, sir, you do.
Would you please read that?
Resolution of the Board of County Commissioners of Los Angeles County, Colorado, making an appointment to the Los Angeles County E911 Authority Board of Director. Resolution number 24-015, whereas Los Angeles County Emergency 911, E911 Authority Board has been formed for the purpose of providing policy guidance and direction for the operations of emergency two-way radio dispatching and emergency service providers within Los Angeles County, State of Trinidad, including law enforcement, fire response, and emergency medical services, and whereas a vacancy exists on the board of directors for the remainder of the term previously filled by Dave Backrack, who was appointed by the Los Angeles County Board of County Commissioners, and whereas recommendations of appointment have been received from rural fire districts operating within the county. Now therefore be resolved by the Board of County Commission of Los Angeles County, Colorado, that one, the Board of County Commission set the nomination of Stonewall Fire District and hereby appoints John Jacobson, Los Angeles County E911 Authority Board of Directors from the day of this appointment until February 2027. On a motion made and seconded, verbally vote this resolution was adopted on this 3rd day of March 2024. Order of the Board of County Commission of Los Angeles County, Colorado, followed by your signature.
Thank you, sir. I want to make one correction on this document, Felix M. Lopez II. I think that goes to Commissioner Luis Lopez II, so
That's a good correction. I think it's followed by the correction.
thank you.
It's not to fill Dave Bacharach's term. I think that one was already completed. This is a whole new term.
Okay.
I need to find something.
Okay, so at this point in time, Commissioners, it is our option to approve or lay on the table, approve with the corrections recommended. So we will have council, would that be?
I would say lay it on the table, Lois Paula can look that up, and we should be able to come back at the end and see if
Very
we
good.
need to make corrections.
I appreciate that recommendation, so.
Motion table?
Second motion.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Luis Lopez?
Yes.
Luis Lopez.
Yes. 9I, consideration of resolution 24-016, Herald Solar LLC, Mr. Dorncamp.
For your consideration, Commissioners, resolution 24-016, Herald Solar LLC.
Please read the resolution, Mr. Dorncamp.
Resolution of the Board of County Commission of Los Angeles County, Colorado, rendering determination on special use permit application number 2024-003, Herald Solar LLC, resolution 24-016. Whereas HUP 2024-003 was filed by Herald Solar LLC requesting development of a 150 megawatt direct current photovoltaic energy generation facility with a correlated 120 megawatt battery energy storage system. The proposed project will be developed on approximately 820 acres of the 2,200 acre leased project area with parts of section 11, 12, 13, 14, township 31, range 62, and whereas San Luis County Planning Commission reviewed special use permit number 2024-003 as meeting held on January 8, 2024, and recommended approval to the Board of County Commissioners, and whereas the Board of County Commissioners held a public hearing on February 20, 2024, in which time the public was afforded the opportunity to comment on special use permit application number 2024-003, now therefore be resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of San Luis County, Colorado, with one findings. The Board of County Commissioners finds that Herald Solar LLC has met all conditions set forth in San Luis County Land Use Code, to special use permit application number 2024-003 determination, number 2 determination. The Board of County Commissioners hereby approves the special use permit application 2024-003 filed by Herald Solar LLC for the development of 100 megawatt direct current photovoltaic energy generation facility with collected 120 megawatt hour battery energy storage system. The project will be developed on approximately 820 acres of a 2,200 acre leased project area with parts of section 11, 12, 13, 14, township 31, range 62. On motion made a second affirmative vote, this resolution is adopted this 5th day of March 2024 by order of the Board of County Commission of Los Angeles County, Colorado, following your signature notice.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, any questions? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve resolution 24-016, Herald Solar LLC.
Second motion.
Mr. Luis Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Hess?
Yes.
Mr. Felix Lopez?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Dorncamp. 9J, consideration of opioid response letter of support. Mr. Dorncamp.
For your consideration, Commissioners, is the Trinidad Community Foundation Keep Trinidad Safe letter of support for the opioid response strategic impact grant application.
Thank you, sir. And by the way, just a little bit of background, this is going to be going to the Attorney General, Phil Weiser. the Trinidad Community Foundation and Keep Trinidad Safe had a partner on a previous grant for the last couple of years, and they did a fantastic work within the community. And so they will be asking this, and this is going to be coming to the Region 19 opioid group. And so one of the things that is highly encouraged to do is go through your county board of commissioners and specify what services are going to be provided. So I believe this is a good letter of support, commissioners. Any questions, anything else on this item? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the opioid response letter support.
Second motion.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Luis Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Felix Lopez?
Yes. 9K, consideration of resolution 24-017, meeting policy and procedures. Mr. Dorocamp.
Commissioner, before you for your consideration is resolution 24-017, meeting policy and procedures.
Please read the resolution, Mr. Dorocamp.
Resolution of the Board of County Commissioners of Los Angeles County adopting the governing principles and policies for meeting. Resolution number 24-017, whereas Los Angeles County Board of County Commissioners desires to adopt a policy to govern meetings held by the board, and whereas the board finds the policy attached and incorporated herein as Exhibit A will best ensure that board meetings are run in an efficient and respectful manner. Now therefore be resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of Los Angeles County, Colorado, that the attached Exhibit A is hereby adopted to govern future board meetings. On motion made, second, further vote, this resolution is adopted this 5th day of March 2024 by order of Board of County Commissioners of Los Angeles County, Colorado, followed by your signature.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? And council, thank you for the work you do in this. Mr. Dorocamp.
And this exhibit A will be available to the public if they so wish, correct?
That's correct.
And posted. Okay. With that, I would move to approve the resolution 24-017, meeting policy and procedure.
Second motion.
Commissioner Luis Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Felix Lopez?
I accept Mr. Dorcamp and all these revised resolution and we'll come back to you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Yes, my vote is a yes, sir. And so, council has sent the revised resolution related to 9A, consideration of resolution 24-015, appointing John Jenkins to the E911 Board of Directors. And so, Mr. Dorocamp,
Make a motion to remove from the table?
yes, thank you.
Second motion.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Luis Lopez?
Yes.
Commissioner Felix Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Dorocamp, I'm going to pull up the new resolution.
Kind of like that Felix Lopez is second.
That's kind of like both drop them off.
I'm actually the third.
I like it much better than Tony did.
Lopez and Lopez. Mr. Dorocamp, please read the resolution.
Resolution of the Board of County Commissioners of Los Angeles County, Colorado, making an appointment to the Los Angeles County E911 Authority Board of Directors, resolution number 24-015. Whereas the Los Angeles County Emergency 911, E911, imprint, Authority Board has been formed for the purpose of providing policy guidance and direction for the operations of the emergency two-way radio dispatch and emergency service providers within Los Angeles County, City of Trinidad, including law enforcement, fire response, and emergency medical services, and whereas a vacancy exists on the board of directors, and whereas recommendations of appointment have been received from rural fire districts operating within the county. Now therefore be resolved that the Board of County Commissioners of Los Angeles County, Colorado, the Board of County Commissioners accept the nomination of Seymour Fire District and hereby appoints John Jenkins to the Los Angeles County 911 Authority Board of Directors. And the date of this appointment until February 2027. A motion made and sent affirmative vote. This resolution is adopted on this 5th day of March 2024 by order of the Board of County Commissioners of Los Angeles County, Colorado, followed by your signatures.
Thank you, Mr. Dorocamp. Once again, any questions? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve resolution 24-015, appointing John Jenkins to the E911 Board of Directors.
Second motion.
Mr. Luis Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Hess?
Yes.
Mr. Felix Lopez?
Yes. This will be a marathon. Section 10, financial matters, and thank you, Mr. Sarah, for the direction. Financial matters, consideration of bills and payroll for the second half of February 2024. Finance Director Gregory.
Payroll as of February 29, 2024 is $197,696.52. Do you have any questions on payroll?
No.
Invoices paid on February 21st, $140,208.11. Is there anything, any question on the invoices that we've issued?
If there are no questions from the officials, I will entertain a motion.
I'd like to thank Director Goldie for all her efforts and work. It's always accurate as always, so thank you. I'll make a motion to approve bills and payroll for the second half of 2024.
Second motion.
Mr. Hess?
Yes.
Mr. Luis Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Felix Lopez?
Yes. Section 11, executive session. The board will meet an executive session under CRS 24-6-424B, conferring with the county attorney for the purposes of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions. A, Hoover Canyon. B, treasurers. C, VSO, and D, Western and rural local government. I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session and with a 10-minute recess.
So moved.
Second. Mr. Luis Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Hess?
Yes.
Mr. Felix Lopez?